Welcome to the Biz Doctor podcast, my love letter to business owners the world over. I'm your host, Lauren Goldstein, award-winning business consultant and advisor fondly nicknamed the Biz Doctor by my clients. I help business owners who are burning the candle at both ends diagnose what is actually keeping them buried in the day-to-day busy work, and then formulate a treatment plan to adjust their business and team to fit them, so they can take a breath and a vacation and have more fun making a bigger impact than ever. So grab your favorite beverage and your earbuds, and let's dive into our latest episode. I have a confession. PR, social media, and thought leadership confound me. It seems like every time I feel like I might have just a tiny bit of those three figured out, the winds shift and I have to yet again adjust my sails. Do you ever feel like the whole marketing and PR space is a moving target? Well, if you are even the least bit lost or curious how to wield those powerful tools of connection, then you are in for a treat. Welcome back to the Biz Doctor podcast. I am your host, Lauren Goldstein, and I am joined in the studio by award-winning and globally recognized PR expert, Blair Kaplan Venables. Blair is an expert in social media marketing and the CEO and founder of Blair Kaplan Communications, a British Columbia-based PR agency. She brings 15 years of experience to her clients, including global wellness, entertainment, and lifestyle brands. She's the creator of the social media empowerment pillars that has helped her customers grow their followers into the tens of thousands in just a month. And she's won integrative marketing awards and more. Recently, USA Today listed Blair as one of the top 10 conscious female leaders, and Yahoo listed Blair as top 10 social media expert to watch. She has spoken on national stages, and her expertise has been featured in media outlets including Forbes, CBC Radio, Entrepreneur, and Thrive Global. In the summer of 2023, a new show that will be airing on Amazon Prime, cue your TVs everyone, called My Story will showcase Blair's life story. She hosts the Radical Resilience podcast and is an international best-selling author. In her free time, which I'm not sure how she has any free time, you can find Blair growing the Global Resilience Projects community, where users share their stories of overcoming life's most challenging moments. We're going to dive into social media, thought leadership, and resilience so you can make a bigger impact with your business, reach more people, and successfully ride the roller coaster of entrepreneurship. So grab your favorite beverage because we're about to go behind the scenes and see how the magic happens. Welcome to the show, Blair.
Well, hello. Who would have thought you and I, cabin mates way back when, before the pandemic in Ontario, would have led to this moment?
I know. So for those of you that don't know our friendship history, Blair and I were at a wonderful entrepreneurial retreat called Dovetail way in BC before Corona, and just had a lovely time learning and exploring beautiful Ontario and lakes. And where were we? Where were we in Canada?
We were in Ontario in Algonquin.
Algonquin. Yes. If you guys have not been, holy cow, is it beautiful. But yes, I'm so beyond excited to have you on the show because I see just how valuable it is to have a proactive marketing and PR strategy and resilience in this crazy business owner world. And what I love most about how you approach all of this is it seems like it's a really holistic, practical, and dare I say simple way that gets not only results, but people out of overwhelm. So with that, to kick us off, why don't you share a bit more about your path and how it led to you starting the work you now do with business owners and entrepreneurs?
I am just so excited to be here, and thank you for creating this space, Lauren. I love it. So my background's in public relations. I'm from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, right in the middle of Canada. And I went to school for public relations. And way back then, social media marketing wasn't a thing. And it just so happened that when I finished school, when I finished my university, I worked for Lululemon, and the company promoted me, and I went from Winnipeg to Edmonton to doing internal PR at the store and management. And then eventually I made it to Vancouver, British Columbia, where the head office is. And my goal was to move up within the organization and do PR. However, the company had went from private to public, and it became really challenging for us young, fresh out of school kids to get positions, the positions that we wanted. And so when I was 23 at the beginning of the recession in 2008, over 15 years ago, I quit my job and I started my PR company, Blair Kaplan Communications.
Mm.
And I had a little bit of a side quest because Lululemon gives their staff free yoga. And I didn't do yoga before I started working at Lulu. So 3.5 years of doing yoga and living a certain lifestyle, I now had to pay full price because I wasn't working at the company. And I did not. It was so expensive.
So expensive.
And so I looked for a way to still live my lifestyle at less of a cost, and I couldn't figure out how to do that. And so I decided, okay, well, I'm going to just start a coupon book. And I went to all the yoga studios and art studios and travel and beauty and all the things I wanted to try in Vancouver. And I convinced these businesses to be in a coupon book for health and wellness. And that eventually like turned into an online health and wellness community and like a group buy model similar to Groupon before Groupon kind of blew up.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason this is important is because I started my PR company, but I ended up focusing a lot on this coupon company, and I was networking a lot. Like I'm talking like sometimes 2 to 4 events a day, and then lots of coffee meetings trying to get businesses in the book. And they'd ask me, how did you get started? And I told them my background would be PR. And they're like, do you know how to use this thing called social media? Do you know how to do PR with social media? Do you know how to use Facebook for marketing? And I always just said yes, but there were no courses on it. There were no mentors. There were no YouTube videos. There were no podcasts like this. And so I just said, yes, I know how to do that. And people started hiring me, big brands that have been around for, decades, startups, everyone in between. And so I started putting big brands and little brands and everyone in between, taking them and putting them on social media and building out strategies. And I built my own like system on how to build a strategy and implement a strategy to grow a business using social media. And it's evolved. And that's a kind of high level on how it got started. So I basically just BS'd my way. And
oh my gosh,
it was working.
I love that so much because I think the reason I love this so much is mostly because I think, as I'm going to speak for myself, as a woman, sometimes I get this like itty bitty shitty committee on my shoulder that's like, oh, I don't know. Are you sure that you have enough expertise to go out and shout about these things or talk about these things? And like, there's that unworthiness conversation. And so I love that you were just like, fuck it. I do know what I'm doing. I'm going to go do it. You should hire me and we'll figure it out. Like that. I love that. I think that's definitely a part of resilience as well. So I can't wait to dive into that a little bit later. So let's start with marketing and PR, shall we?
Let's do it.
It might just be me, but what is the actual difference between marketing and PR?
These days, everything kind of blends together.
Mm-hmm.
Public relations is the planned effort to influence public opinion through responsible action, which is supported by two-way communication. And I would say marketing is a part of that. So the difference might be, like, I don't actually know the official definition of marketing. Maybe it's because I never really claimed to be like a marketer and I'm more of a communicator. But marketing is more, maybe you have a product you're promoting and you buy an ad in a magazine. So we'll say Vogue. You have a product you're marketing and you want to promote it. So you buy a full page ad in Vogue. That's marketing. That's you're paying to talk about it. Public relations would be maybe you reach out to a journalist and send them a sample of your product at Vogue, and then they write an article about you. It's when someone else is talking about you.
Oh, that's good. PR is someone else talking about you. Marketing is you talking about yourself. Oh my gosh, you, I think, might have just said it in the most concise, understandable way I've ever heard. So thank you for that. And you might have just broken my brain.
You're welcome, and I'm sorry.
It's okay. So let's talk about, why is PR important? Like what, because I think so many people are focused on marketing, that PR is kind of an afterthought, or people think that it's only for big brands like Lululemon, Nike, Apple, etc. What about us business owners that don't have $1 billion brand?
Right. So it says that the value of someone talking about you is like 3 times more the value of like if you pay for that like space. So it's always more valuable to have someone else talking about you. And what happens with PR is that it establishes credibility and it helps position you, the entrepreneur or the business, as a thought leader or an industry expert or a leading industry expert thought leader. And there's lots of ways to do this in the world of PR. My favorite way is by publicity, which is when you're mentioned in the media. But not just that, but like, for example, Lauren, like you have your own podcast that is marketing, but it's also PR. Like you have your own show. People want to come and be a guest on your show. Like this is a huge marketing tool, but it's also a PR tool because it's branding you as a podcast host, a business expert, and whatever else you want to be seen as. And so like you can see how there's the blurry line between marketing and PR. But for you out there listening, if there are 2 experts you're choosing between, maybe we'll say hairdressers, people who are going to cut your hair and style your hair, and you go to both of their websites. And one website, on the homepage, you see they've been featured in a whole bunch of different magazines. They've been in Cosmo and Vogue and some local things, and a radio station, did a feature on them. And you see this on their homepage that they've been in the media, and you see these client testimonials about having the best hairstylist in your part of the country and the best haircut and the best dye job. Dye job, is that even a thing?
I think it's a thing.
And then you go to the other hairdresser and all it does is it tells you who this person is and lists their services. Which one of those excites you more? Right?
Or which one do you trust more?
Which one do you trust more? It is about building authority. And so PR can also be like Lululemon. They used to do huge campaigns. They had one ad they used to, this is 05 to 08, my time there. They used to run one ad in the magazine Yoga Journal, but everything else they did was through a team of ambassadors. Every store had ambassadors and a lot of guerrilla marketing. So they opened up a new store and they had this campaign where it was like the first certain amount of people that showed up naked.
Naked?
I think this is loose. I didn't do my research before this, but I think it was people, if they went shopping naked, it was the first X amount of people that showed up got to shop naked and like take home everything that they put on. And closing down like Times Square and all these big areas with massive yoga classes, guerrilla yoga classes. Like those are PR because the news talks about it. Right? So
Interesting. So when I guest on other podcasts, that's PR.
Yep.
When I'm in a magazine, that's PR. But when when I'm promoting my own stuff, that's marketing.
But I think we need to talk about social media because people see it as a marketing tool. And yes, it is, but it's not a sales tool. To me, public relations, PR is best displayed and used on social media. So to me, I see social media, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, all LinkedIn, X. I see it all as a PR tool. And yes, we are posting it and controlling it, but the people who see what we're posting, like I made a video this weekend, like right now up in British Columbia, there was a lot of fires and I happened to be in a place where there was a fire and I made a video and there's almost 700,000 views on TikTok. That's like the one video that's ever went viral for me.
Wow.
And it's a pretty crazy video. That's PR. Like I'm not promoting, like I'm not a firefighter, but like that grew my account.
Interesting. I mean, this is a really good segue into social media. So when you look at social media, and maybe this is going to be a really deep rabbit hole that we go in, and you see people using it, how are they using it incorrectly or ineffectively? Like how can they shift it and shift their mindset from, the marketing, putting stuff out there to PR? Because I know for me, something I struggle with, I don't know if you listening struggle with this, but I'm like, am I just creating more noise? So I don't know. Does that question make sense?
Yes. Just clarification. Are you talking about people or like people using it for business?
Business owners. Yeah.
So there's a couple things I like to say. So the biggest thing that people are missing from their strategies, the biggest thing that people don't do is engage. So So posting and ghosting, creating a bunch of content and scheduling it, setting it and forgetting it, posting and ghosting, all that stuff. Big mistake. Social is part of the name, social media. So the biggest thing is you can post once a month. You can post on your feed, your story. You can post 5 times a day. There's so much going on social media. There is a lot of noise. The biggest way to get attention is by engaging. And every time you show up on social media, making a post, commenting on a post, liking a post, following someone new, sending a direct message, whatever it is that you're doing, you're planting a seed. And your job is to nurture those seeds and turn those seeds into leads. And so that's one side of it. So that has nothing to do with posting. Posting, I like to post what I want, when I want, how I want. I used to lead a workshop I haven't in a while called F the Algo. Like, yes, there are algorithms and there's things you can do, but I don't create content for the algorithm. I have a strategy that acts as a guide, but I post the content I want to post. I show up as me. I show the good, the bad, the ugly, the blood, sweat, and tears. And like, yeah, my feed might be mostly polished, but my story isn't. It's messy. It's behind the scenes. And what happens is when you show up authentically, you build relationships. And I think a big missed opportunity for a lot of entrepreneurs, business owners, people in business is that they're not really being authentic. They're painting this picture of this perfect world that they want people to see, but it's not the full truth.
Yeah, I think there's so many good nuggets there, but I think that particular point I see growing out of control, especially with all the filters and then this and then that. And, I had a mentor tell me years and years ago, don't compare your behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel, which I thought was so powerful because we only see, really what's working because, you're the exception. Most people don't want to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly and their journey. And so I love that. And I also really appreciate the reminder that you shared about at the end of the day, it's about relationships. And I think because we're talking to a robot and a computer all the time, we forget about the humans that are on the other side of the like or the reaction or I'm sorry, I can't call it X, the tweet.
Yeah. The X.
The X. Yeah. And so that's a really great reminder of thinking of social media as a garden that you get to nurture and cultivate and grow into this really beautiful place for people to come and connect with you.
Yeah. And I look at social media, specifically tools like TikTok and Instagram, as like a place to be very creative. Like social media isn't an art form, but it's a place to be creative and artsy. Like there's no wrong way to do it. There's no wrong way to show up. And when you're having fun with it and posting authentically and like what you want, your content's better. And you might make a post today that someone finds in 3 months from now that they needed to see.
Yeah. I mean, I think of all the content that I engage with, and I love the stuff that feels a little raw and not staged. And I know for me, so I'm a little bit like you in terms of I try and post what I want or when I have that like great shower thought that I'm like, ooh, let's talk about that. Because there's just a different energy than you have when you're free from the like constraint of I have to schedule this like Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And you're thinking of things outside the moment instead of being able to connect with yourself and your clients and your people and say, I think we should talk about this right now, which I think is really very important. So in terms of PR, what are the biggest mistakes you see people make with PR?
That they don't do it.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
They don't do it. They don't do it. And so there's so like PR is a huge umbrella. Like let's just even like narrow in on publicity. People are scared. They think I'm not good enough to be mentioned in the media, or they're scared to be that expose, like, it's very vulnerable to be out there, whether it's a little quote of something they said or a whole feature on them. And they also think that's too hard to do. It's too hard to get. And I really do believe like getting mentioned in the media is easy and that anyone can do it. I started writing articles in newspapers at the age of 12.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So if they're not doing it, chances are they're probably overwhelmed or they don't even know where to start. So like, what's one thing that they could do today, beside obviously hiring you, which should be the go-to, but what's one thing they could do today that like could get them on the PR train?
The first thing they probably want to do is figure out what their expert topics are. Like, what are those high-level expert topics that you want to be known as the expert in, that you could write endless articles about under that umbrella, and start doing, I'd say, like a thought shower, a brainstorm about some things that you can write about. And alongside that, doing your research. So maybe you have a specific website you read news on the time. Maybe it's Huffington Post. Maybe it's Harvard Business Review. Well, you get to whatever you like news sources you look at and start searching. Start searching for those terms. So if I write about social media, I might go to those websites and go in the search bar social media and see the type of articles that people are writing about and use this as a place of inspiration for ideas for your expert topic and ideas. You can't pitch without ideas. You can't write articles without ideas. So the biggest thing is start with expert topic. Your expert topics and article ideas.
Okay. What's the maximum amount of topics you recommend?
Well, endless. I mean, I'd say, let's start with like a minimum. I think just to be safe, you pick one topic you're an expert in. Like, so for me, I have two. It's social media and resilience. Mm-hmm. So for social media, and come up with 10 article ideas.
Okay. So for me, it's operations, business operations and teams. Are those too big? Do we need to, do people like if they're like us that have big, because operations and teams, like, wow, there's so much that goes into that. Is that too broad, or is that actually what you want, is you want a broader thing so that you can just touch all the nuances?
So what's going to happen is you have your broad one, operations, and then you're going to come up with 10 topics. And under those 10 topics, you might come up with 10 more topics. So let's come up with an idea for operations. So there's a news site out there called She Owns It. Focuses on women's business owners. So maybe you write an article about the 10 things all women business owners need to set up in order to run efficiently. And so you have those 10 different things. Well, those 10 different things can each probably be an article also. Right? So everything you have, like, they will all lead back essentially to you, what you do, your business, your services. But if you have ideas, great. If you like, there's no limit.
Right. Yeah. I love that. And another PR tool, well, I think this is a PR tool, correct me if I'm wrong, is your book and being a published author.
Oh, yes. So I have a couple books, but when you publish a book, it helps with your credibility, right? Even if you co-author a book, if you're in one of those anthologies and you have a chapter in a book, you are now a published author. That helps with your credibility. That helps you get on more stages and be a guest on more podcasts and maybe get in the media. And most likely, if you're in an anthology, they do a bunch of the marketing for you. Like, that's what I do with my anthologies, is I do the marketing. Like, I do a lot of the marketing for the book on behalf of my authors. Another thing is there are lots of tools out there for you to kind of dip your toe in and see what journalists are looking for. So I'll give you maybe one last tool for now, but there's a website called Help a Reporter Out, HARO, and you can subscribe and you'll get emails with what journalists are looking for. So I'm looking for a social media expert who works from home, who has 2 cats. And I might be like, that's me, because it is. And then I would respond. And that's how I ended up in Forbes my first time. I responded to a HARO request. Unfortunately, I didn't know for many months because she spelt my name wrong. the journalist. I'll take it.
No. I
Yeah,
love that.
it's okay. I'm in.
Yeah, it's a great tool. I think for me, if I were to use it again, because we got a little overwhelmed with everything, I think I'd be more thoughtful with my responses, because I think that like they were all really good, but I don't know. I think maybe 1 or 2 out of 100 made it into a publication.
Yeah, it's very time consuming. So what I do is if I'm gearing up for a big launch, that's when I ramp up my PR, ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I spend more time on it. But if not, I still get the emails. I do a quick search for keywords. Might be Forbes, social media, like Fast Company, whatever my goals are. I just do a quick search. So I might not read the whole email, but I look for certain keywords. And if that request on Haro works for me, I'll make a pitch. And I whip it out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really great. So in terms of, I have to ask this question. Are influencers considered thought leaders? Like, what is a thought leader? Like, if you were to define a thought leader, what is a thought leader, and are influencers thought leaders?
Yeah, a thought leader is a person of influence.
Okay.
So like a proper influencer. So there's I think it depends on who you are and how you see this. This is just my opinion, but like there are lifestyle bloggers out there who on social media who I look at as influencers. Like I've bought products that they've bought because they've like reviewed them and they're relatable. Then there's the influencers out there who just make money from the brands and post pictures of them holding the latest, energy drink and whatnot. That doesn't really influence me. So, but to someone else, that might be the thought leader, the influencer. So yeah, social media influencers are considered thought leaders in my opinion.
Interesting. Okay. All right. That's great. So let's shift a little bit to resilience now. The Global Resilience Project is a brainchild of yours and a passion project. So let's talk about, what is resilience? Why are you passionate about it? What does it mean? And the resilience muscle.
So yeah, resilience. There's so many definitions out there, but the Global Resilience Project, which is what I'm the founder of, we define resilience as bouncing forward from a challenging time. I used to think of it as bouncing back. Like if you were to like stretch a rubber band between 2 fingers and let go and it bounces back. That to me used to be what resilience is. But what I realized is that there is no going back. There's only going forward. So resilience is bouncing forward from a challenging experience. And the Global Resilience Project is a community and safe space for people to share stories of resilience. And it acts as a container for big feelings. And we do this through our published books, our podcast, Radical Resilience. We have like a dark humor merchandise line that my sister, who is our mental health director, is in charge of. I am a motivational speaker. I travel around the world talking about resilience. And other cool things have been coming up. We were going to be at the Emmys, but there's a strike, but we're going to be at the Oscars gifting lounge in LA, giving out copies of our book. And, in the bio, you read Amazon Prime. So my goal here is to help spread my message and help people strengthen their resilience muscle and rewire their brains.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What's 1 or 2 ways that they can strengthen their resiliency muscle so that when those challenging times come up, they're not taken out for as long and they can bounce forward?
Yeah. My favorite way is practicing gratitude, but there's a formula to it. And I started doing this in 2016, and I don't even know if you remember it from camp, but Sean Acor from the Happiness Advantage, I saw a YouTube video, and he says, if you practice gratitude every single day at the exact same time, and you do it for at least 21 days, and when you practice gratitude, you list 3 things you're grateful for from the past 24 hours. After those 21 days, your brain starts to get rewired to see the world in a more positive way. I saw this and I was like, well, that's too easy. So I opened up my phone and I set an alarm for 9 p.m. I labeled it the gratitude alarm, and it's been going off ever since. We did it the day my mom went to bed, her final time. Like we learned my mom had cancer. Oh, sorry. I should probably back up. A lot of people died in my life. We'll talk about that in a second. But my mom passed away, and she learned she had cancer and died 3 weeks later. And she was in the hospital, and like she went to sleep and didn't wake up, basically. That day when she went to sleep, me, my mom, and sister practiced gratitude. My dad also passed away. He passed away the same year as my mom, 360 days later. The day that he passed away, me, my sister, my grandma, my aunt, and uncle, we all stood around practicing gratitude. He was no longer in pain. He was no longer suffering, and we were all together. There's always something to be grateful for, and it's a really beautiful practice. And you don't have to do it at 9 p.m., but I do encourage you listening to open up your phone, pick a time, and commit. And 21 days is great, but like, why not do it all the time? It's such a beautiful practice. Last night I was lying in bed, my alarm went off. I yelled across the house what I was grateful for, and my husband yelled it right back what he was grateful for. It doesn't need to be this big thing, but you know.
Oh, I love that so much. And that's such a good book that I get to go reread. Because I think the three things that I love most about this is, one, you're taking a moment to take a breath and like stop, because I think as entrepreneurs, it's really hard sometimes for us to disconnect and have that line of demarcation between going and pausing. So I love that. I love that it's only 24 hours, so you get to be super present to what's happening in your life. And then the third thing that I love is you can involve people, because I think so many gratitude exercises are like in a silo, like journal in your notebook, your gratitude. So I love that. Great reminder.
So we're going to just stick with that, but there's lots of things you can do. I was just doing some research yesterday about the neuroscience of resilience and, the power of your brain. Like there's a lot of things you can do, but practicing gratitude is a very powerful tool.
Okay. I love that so much. Now, I'm sure y'all are asking yourselves, how do I connect with this amazing human being that we're talking to right now? So before I get to my last two questions, trust me, you're going to want to stick around to hear the answers to these. Why don't you share how listeners can further connect with you and about all of these things?
Well, that's a great question. So the Global Resilience Project, you want to be in the book, you want to buy the book, you want to learn more about the project, you want to book me to speak, you can go to theglobalresilienceproject.com. Mm-hmm. You can find all of our social handles there. And then my PR and social media world is blairkaplan.ca. And I'm just going to throw in, I'm on all the socials, but I love and I'm most active on Instagram. And there I am Blair from Blairland.
Yes, it's a great account. If you're not following it, go do it right now. Well, no, don't go do it right now. Keep listening. But then after, go do it. And then also, why don't you tell them what your books are called so they can go maybe pick those up?
Oh, okay. So can people see me or could they only hear me?
They can only hear you, but okay. We can see each other. In case you're wondering, okay. We can see each other in studio.
So I'm going to do a quick high level content warning. My story is quite heavy. The reason the Global Resilience Project started is because my father lived with addiction. We had a very tumultuous relationship. He was in and out of my life, broke my heart. In my 20s, I forgave him. We developed a very beautiful relationship. But at the end of 2018, we learned he was terminally ill. I had trouble mentally processing that. My health took a turn. But I started sharing our story of his addiction, my forgiveness, and our resilience. And our story was helping people. It was creating a space for people to share their stories, to seek therapy, to fix relationships, mend relationships in their life. And so my father and I decided to write this book called The Global Resilience Project and gather stories from around the world to give people an opportunity to share their stories and bookend the book with his story, my dad's story, and my story. So when he was no longer here, it can still help people. When I started this journey, I was like, oh, wait, I have no idea how to write a book. So I took a book writing workshop. And so I actually ended up writing a practice book that I launched at the beginning of the pandemic, and it became a bestseller on Amazon. So my practice book is a business book. It's called Pulsing Through My Veins, Raw and Real Stories from an Entrepreneur. It's like little mini essays. It's cool because I wasn't like trying to be a bestseller, and last minute I'm like, I'm going to test my marketing skills. Didn't even do research. I was like, let me see if I could make it a bestseller. And like, hot tip, if you're launching a book, Amazon.ca, it's much easier to hit like number one than .com. So make sure if you're launching on Amazon, you monitor multiple countries' charts. And then in June 2022, the Global Resilience Project book finally came out. It took a while because I had to navigate many losses in my life. And I wanted to make sure I was holding space for myself when I needed to, and holding space for the authors when I had the capacity. But in June 2022, the book came out and became an international bestseller. And right now we are working on our second Global Resilience Project book. So we are accepting stories.
That just makes me so happy. And y'all, do you see why I had to have Blair on the show? Not only for your PR expertise, but also because I think something that humanity is really lacking these days are those real and raw conversations and vulnerability and human connection. And I just love how vulnerable you are and how it gives everyone permission to also be vulnerable and tell their stories, because we all got stuff going on. And so I feel like the more we can lay down our shields and connect, the more a rising tide lifts all boats. All right, it's time for our last two questions. I know we've covered a lot, but are there any last nuggets or advice that you want to make sure you share with our listeners before we wrap up?
I think on the resilience side, just know it's okay to not be okay. You will get through the hard stuff. You don't have to go through it alone. And you are resilient. We are all resilient.
Great nugget. I love it. Okay. Last question I ask all of my guests, which I cannot wait for since you are such a prolific, as you said, reader with your ears. What is a book that you think every entrepreneur or business owner should read, and why?
Okay, I'm giving you two.
Yes.
So I love like concerts and music. Red Hot Chili Peppers is my favorite band. And the bass player, Flea, wrote a book. It came out in 2019 and it's called Acid for the Children. He is a prolific writer, and I listened to this book and he narrates it. It is his life story. It's a memoir. It is so good. So that's called Acid for the Children. Okay. And it's not what you think. And then
it doesn't sound good, but it sounds interesting.
Yeah. And then I don't have like a favorite business book. I mean, I'm always reading, but right now I can't really put it down. It's a new book that just came out by Gordy Ball, and it's called The New Millionaire's Playbook: 7 Keys to Unlock Freedom, Purpose, and Abundance. So I'm really into that right now.
Okay. All right. Two great books. Neither one I've read, but they will be added to my Amazon cart very soon. Well, Blair, it has been such a pleasure to reconnect and have you on the show. Thank you so much for your time and coming on and sharing your expertise with everyone.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a slice.
Oh, it was indeed. All right, everyone, that's it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for listening in. If anything we shared sparked something in you, we'd love for you to rate and review our show. And of course, share this episode with your friends or other business owners. And I'd also so enjoy hearing from you. So let's connect. Tag or DM me on Instagram at It's Lauren Goldstein, or LinkedIn, or wherever you hang out on the interwebs. Lastly, don't forget to subscribe so you're the first to get notified when our next episode is live and ready for your ears. Thanks so much for listening. Until next time. Listening to the Biz Doctor podcast. Now, I like to say that friends don't let friends WebMD your business. So if you're wondering what your next steps could be, here are some options for you. No matter what, head to the show notes or to my website, goldenkeypartnership.com, for some impactful resources to support you getting out from under your business. That's also where you'll find the links to learn more about our services and how we support business owners, just like you, who are ready to make the successful jump from business operator in the trenches to visionary business owner with more freedom and flexibility. All of that info is on our website, so pop on over to learn more or get in touch. goldenkeypartnership.com. Finally, if you love the Biz Doctor podcast, I'd be so grateful if you would share it with your friends and network and give us a 5-star rating or review wherever you listen to your podcast.
This is Story Studio Network.